1993. The scorching sun is like a fire, and the scorching heat is like a furnace. It was only 7:30 in the morning, and the air was already hot. Song Viang stood in front of the mirror for a long time, looking at the youthful face, so familiar, distant and strange. The 17-year-old face is beautiful, clean, and pure. The bridge of the nose is tall and straight, the eyebrows are slanted, and the eyes are clear. The time-honored Guo Tianwang style middle distribution type represents popular fashion at this time. People can't help but want to stretch their arms, twist their palms, and sing while jumping, "I love you" endlessly. On the wall opposite the Simmons bed, there is a Terminator 2 movie poster. Mr. Governor wears sunglasses with a cold and righteous expression. Michael Jackson held his crotch with one hand and the brim of his hat with one hand, and pointed his at the governor's face. The neighbor of Mr. Governor and MJ is the Hong Kong singer Jo Huimin. The head of the lady is wearing a beret and a striped red t-shirt. The soft light effect covers the entire pictorial, making her enveloped in fairy spirits. Song Viang lowered his head and touched his belly. It was flat, with vaguely visible abdominal muscles, not the greasy middle-aged beer belly. "Hello, pretty boy, nice to see you." Song Viang smiled to himself. The sun was dazzling outside the window, the cicadas hissed in the summertime, and a few breeze shook the leaves, casting light spots on the ground. On the writing desk next to the window, there is a Lenovo OnePlus 1 domestic computer. The sturdy and awkward case and the ugly original display are priced close to 20,000 yuan in the market. In the years when the national average monthly salary was less than 300 yuan, ordinary workers had to work hard for 5 years without eating or drinking before they could buy this computer with only 8 RAM. Obviously, our protagonist, Song Viang, is an enviable rich second generation. Unfortunately. Song Viang glanced at the wall calendar, his expression became a little weird, and he remembered the date July 2, 1993 deeply. "In a few hours, my father will go to jail. Within half a month, the 200 square meter house in the family will be forcibly taken back by the new director. In another year, the eldest brother will die unexpectedly due to a debt dispute, and the mother will be distraught and moderately depressed." Today is the turning point in Song Viang's life. In his last life, it took him 20 years to finally become a rich man again, but he could barely reach the peak of his father's achievements. There was a knock on the door, and the voice of her mother Guo Xiaolan came from outside. "Yang Yang, it's time for breakfast." Song Viang pushed out the door, watching her mother when she was young, suddenly choked up in her voice, and whispered, "Mom, you have worked hard." Guo Xiaolan would obviously be wrong, and forced a smile, comfortingly said, "Don't worry about your dad's affairs. He will be sentenced to a few years at most. It is not that he has not been in jail before." "Well, I know." Song Viang could only nod his head. Sister-in-law Cai Fanghua came out holding her just 1-year-old nephew and said with a worried expression, "Mom, I won't go to the court today. Xiao Chao will cry before dawn. I guess there is something wrong with it. I have to take him to the hospital." Guo Xiaolan placed the tableware and said, "Go, the child's treatment is important, and I will be watching over the court. Do you have any money with you? How about I drive you?" The eldest brother's voice came from the toilet. "Take it, I'll rent it out." The sister-in-law left after speaking. Not long after the eldest brother finished washing, he came to the dining table shirtless, his tendon shining brightly. S eldest brother's name is Song Qizi. Because he likes to fight and make troubles, he was sent to join the army just after he graduated from junior high school. After 3 years of conscripts, he won 2 personal third-class merits and 1 collective second-class merit. Just when he was about to be promoted, he unexpectedly chose to demobilize and retired because he could not stand the restraint of the troops as soldier. Song Qizi, Song Viang, the names of the 2 brothers linked together are Qizi Viang, which vaguely shows the ambition of their father. The atmosphere at the dinner table was dull, No one spoke, only the buzzing and turning of electric fans. Father's case has been in court for several times, and it is estimated that the final judgment will be made today, and everyone's heart seems heavy. I'm full. The eldest brother put down the dishes and went to the balcony to smoke. Song Viang also followed, and said, "Give me one." "You're almost 18 years old, it's time to learn to smoke." The eldest brother threw a whole packet of Zonghua with a lighter, and said, "Take it and smoke slowly." Song Viang lightly ignited and took a sip, looking downstairs thoughtfully. There were 7 or 8 people squatting there, all coming to collect debts, and it was difficult to be quiet all day long. Brother also glanced down a few times, spitting out the smoke ring and said, "You will be in the 3rd year of high school soon, don't worry about family affairs, and prepare for the college entrance examination with peace of mind." "Yet," Song Viang replied in a low voice. The family took the time to go out and ran into a few neighbors in the corridor. Some take the initiative to say hello, some avoid it like a snake and scorpion, and some have a gloating expression. Everyone knows that the Song family, which once had a lot of beauty, is completely finished. "I'm coming." The debt collector squatting downstairs, seeing Song Kizi appear, immediately raised the debt repayment sign and surrounded their family of 3. "Get out of the way, let's talk about the money thing another day, I have to go to the court today." The eldest brother directly pushed the person away, his face was fierce, and the August 1st army thorns on his waist were looming. The debt collectors hesitated for a while, and finally let the Song family go, but they have been following Santana. Obviously, they will not give up easily. In the 5-tier small cities in the early 1990s, there were almost no skyscrapers in sight. The 10-story department store building in the city is already a landmark building. Even in the new year, no farmers dare to walk in and shop. The buildings on both sides of the street are mostly grey, without much color, just like black and white photos frozen in a long river. A bus carrying a natural gas bag approached from a distance, domineering and clumsy, and successfully attracted Song Viang's attention. This is a symbol of the country's insufficient oil production capacity and was very popular in the 1970s, but it was not until 2003 that Rongping City eliminated the last airbag bus. Unlike the thriving Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, and Shenzhen, the inland cities in 1993 were so lifeless that Song Viang, who was reborn, felt depressed. When came to the court, many reporters and onlookers had gathered here. Today's trial case is really sensational, because the defendant Song Shimin is well known, and he is recognized as the richest man in Rongping City, so many ordinary people come to hear the trial. Guo Xiaolan, Song Kizi, and Song Viang appeared, which inevitably caused a commotion. Fortunately, the reporters are relatively slow these days, and they didn't rush over like chicken blood. They didn't even bother to take 2 photos. At 9 o'clock in the morning, the trial began. Song Viang finally saw his father Song Shimin again, not the grey-haired old man in his memory. He was taken out by 2 bailiffs, although he was wearing a gown and his face was a little tired, his expression was particularly calm. His hair has been shaved into green stubble, and his beard has not been shaved for several days, but he still can't stop the handsome and calm middle-aged guy. If there is no self-deprecating smile, it is even more peculiar. It's a pity, no matter how handsome you look, you still have to defy the law. Song Shimin has completely confessed his fate. In the face of a number of charges, he confessed guilt cleanly, and the defense lawyer has completely lost the value of existence. The trial lasted until noon, and it was time for the sentence to be pronounced. All rise. According to the provisions of, the judgment is as follows: the defendant Song Shimin committed corruption and bribery, embezzlement of public funds, multiple crimes and sentenced to 8 years and 6 months in prison. Ugh! Guo Xiaolan sighed, her husband's sentence was too long for her to accept. Song Shimin stood tall in the dock, as if he had anticipated the result. He sneered, "I obey the verdict and will not appeal." Click, click. The reporter finally pressed the camera shutter, and the people listening to the trial also talked about it. Some clapped their hands and cheered, and some felt wronged for Song Shuman. In another time and space, it has been 6 years since Song Shuman was released from prison. The once domineering corporate pride has become a little old man who can only fish and play chess. In a certain era, the boundary between private company bosses and state-owned company bosses was very blurred. From the eyes of ordinary people, Song Shuman is a big boss and the well-known richest man in Rongping City. In the eyes of the leaders, Song Shuman is just the factory director of many state-owned enterprises, and everything in the factory belongs to state-owned assets. No one is right or wrong, this is a foolish account. Let's take a look at Song Shuman's resume. He has entered the palace for the second time. This time Song Shuman was originally an educated youth who went to the countryside in Chenghai City. Because he married a girl in the village and had children, he did not choose to return to his place of origin. He stayed in the town and worked as a grassroots civil servant. Then he set up a brewery and gradually developed into a small winery. In 1982, in the spring of reforms, the slow spring cold appeared, and the provincial attack speculation work group stationed in the city. At that time, the whole country was catching the speculative model. The working group was worried about who to catch, and suddenly saw Song's house from a distance on the suburban highway. It was a small THRESTRE Western-style building with white tiles on the exterior wall. It was placed in the early 1980s and was like a luxury villa. So the comrades of the working group said, "You must be a capitalist if you can live in such a good house." Sure enough, the winemaking workshop opened by Song Shuman illegally occupied the bottles that were supposed to be supplied to the state-run winery, and illegally purchased grain from the city's grain station for winemaking. Although those wine bottles and food were paid at high prices, it was indeed illegal in the early 1980s. Furthermore, the number of employees in the brewery has reached 12. According to the boundaries of the Das Kapital, more than 8 employees are capitalists, and there is a phenomenon of possession of workers' surplus value. Song Shuman was sentenced to 15 years in prison for illegally occupying state-owned assets and taking the capitalist line. Fortunately, after only half a year in prison, the central policy suddenly loosened and Song Shuman was released early. In view of this lesson, Song Shuman dare not live in a small country house anymore, let alone expose his wealth. In order to operate legally, he had to link his winery to the town government, and his nature changed from a private workshop to a communal enterprise, i.e., a township and village enterprise. The tragedy of the Song family also laid the groundwork. Although the winery was founded by its own family, it belongs to collective ownership due to the affiliation, and there is no clear division of equity at all. This is a special historical product of the 1980s. The well-known Cullen and Jian Libao are both like this. Unidentified equity brings endless troubles. In the end, Cullen's boss was forced to resign, while Jian Libao declined during the wrangling. As the central government accelerates the pace of reform, the Song family's winery is in full swing. Especially in the late 1980s, due to the failure of price barriers and the national financial recession, the central government ordered no famous wines to be served. The liquor produced by the Song family took the opportunity to expand the market and received the support of the municipal government to become the liquor for the entertainment of local grassroots units. Taking the opportunity of the state-owned winery to fall into a triangle debt, Song Shuman ran around and finally merged the city's largest state-owned winery. The Song family not only merged the state-owned winery, but also merged the hardware factory and plastic factory in the city. Don't think this is a good thing. The merged hardware factory and plastic factory are all suffering heavy losses. Because it is located in the remote southwest, no one wants to sell it, and the factory land has no development value. Song Shuman needs to take money from the winery to fill the holes every year. At that time, the whole country was doing this. The local government was troubled by the mess of state-owned enterprises. When a star company was caught, it would package it as a gift, or conduct a joint venture or a direct merger. Because it is a township and village enterprise that merges with a state-owned enterprise, it is a collective nature. There is a factory ex-secretary as the housekeeper. Song Shumin does not even have the qualifications to expel a worker. Song Shumin tried his best to finally gain more power. After vacating the factory ex-secretary, he successfully turned the two state-owned enterprises back into profit. The city government was so happy that it threw a few other loss-making state-owned enterprises to Song Shumin for management, and even wanted to build a large local group with an exemplary role. In order to obtain the full support of the municipal government, Song Shumin had to accept all orders and bite the bullet to catch the loss-making state-owned enterprises. In fact, the loss of state-owned enterprises is not a big deal, and the involvement of the secretary of the Factory X is nothing. The most terrifying thing is that the company's equity is not clear. Although Song Shumin is in charge of many companies and has hundreds of millions of assets, he is just a big housekeeper, and he does not own a penny even if he runs the winery from scratch. A few years ago, quantitative reforms were popular along the coast and began to implement equity distribution, and many township and village entrepreneurs became real rich men as a result. Song Shumin also wanted to learn to play this way, but Rongping City was remote, and officials had very rigid thinking, and they simply did not agree to the so-called quantitative reform. Immediately afterwards, Song Shumin consulted an economist and wanted to complete the equity reform through MBO, but the city government stopped it midway. Song Shumin finally chose to take the risk. He first went to Singapore under the pretext of earning foreign exchange, quietly registered a company and transferred assets. Then, in the name of a Singapore company, it acquired a Hong Kong company that was on the verge of bankruptcy, and then let people engage in joint ventures under the banner of Hong Kong businessmen to realize management's share ownership. Everything went very smoothly, and the city government was overjoyed at the Hong Kong capital falling from the sky. Who knows the uneven distribution of the spoils? Someone in the management felt that they had taken less, and sent a report letter directly to the province, and Song Shumin was quickly controlled. Song Shumin's actual charge was appropriating state-owned assets, but he had his own unique style in the 1990s. In order to avoid discouraging entrepreneurs' enthusiasm for reform, such cases are generally arbitrarily convicted of bribery, corruption, etc., without mentioning the real crimes, and such cases have emerged one after another. Song Shumin was actually too impatient. He was still young. As long as he worked hard for a few years, state-owned enterprises would begin to restructure on a large scale. At that time, he will not be required to operate illegally. In order to reform their political performance, local officials will inevitably change the law and actively send him shares. Around 2000, a large number of wealthy people in China made their fortunes like this. Now, Song Shumin has become a prisoner. The winery he ran has also changed its director, and he has no relationship with the Song family. In Song Viang's memory, since his father went to jail, the winery quickly fell into trouble. Under the leadership of the new factory director, cronyism, rigid management, weak marketing, corruption, a series of problems emerged one after another, gradually losing market competitiveness, and finally was merged by a winery in the provincial capital in 1998. As for our protagonist Song Viang, from a rich second generation to a troubled son, the family still owes more than 3 million yuan in debt, which does not include bank loans that cannot be repaid. Yes, debt. Song Shumin made two-handed preparations and handed over a cannery that was on the verge of bankruptcy to his elder son. Due to the bad situation of the cannery, the local government didn't care. The Song family easily obtained full shares of the factory and quickly turned losses into profits with the help of Song Shumin. According to Song Shumin's vision, even if he goes to prison for a crime, his family can live well with the cannery. But with the rise of healthcare products and the increase in various beverages, as well as the anti-dumping of Chinese canned food by European and American countries, the once popular canned fruit market has rapidly declined. Now the warehouse of the cannery is full of backlogs, and the dealers are also clamoring for refunds. In addition, the fruit growers' payments, workers' wages, and cooperative enterprises' payments are still owed. In his previous life, Brother Song was caused by the cannery's debt disputes. Died accidentally. This is indeed a tragedy. The winery that owned Rijndagen was confiscated. On the contrary, the equity of the cannery with serious losses was clear, and they had to find a way to repay these debts. In a short time, it is impossible for my father to be fished out. His crime was too great and it had already alarmed the province, and no one dared to reverse the case for him. This time period in 1993 was very embarrassing. The central government was crossing the river by feeling the stones, and the people were rushing wildly. The whole country knows that reform is necessary, but no one can figure out how to reform and to what extent. The state-owned enterprises are the most sensitive area, and they are not immune to collision. Song Viang wants his father to be released from prison as soon as possible. There is only one feasible way, and that is to strengthen the Song family's strength and strive for commutation, and sentence reduction. The trial ended for more than 10 minutes. It was not until the staff cleared the room that Guo Xiaolan left the table in a daze. Staggering under her feet, Song Viang and her eldest brother hurriedly supported her. "Mom, don't worry, you can also fight for a commutation," Song Viang comforted. Guo Xiaolan seemed to be 10 years old all of a sudden. She nodded and said, "Mom knows, you have to study hard, and the college entrance examination is coming next year." Song Qizi was very heartened, and enlightened his mother and younger brother, "I will be at home in the future. When Dad comes out for 3 to 5 years, we can still make a comeback." Brother Song's smile didn't last long, and he was quickly surprised by the situation at the door of the court. There are dozens of workers in the factory, and companies, fruit farmers, and distributors cooperating with the cannery are jamming there. There are estimated to be more than 100 people densely packed. As soon as the Song family came out, these debt collectors immediately came forward and shouted, "Manager Song, let us pay the salary first. Boss Song, your cans can't be sold at all, so why don't you have to refund part of the payment? Boss Song, you haven't paid for the sweet tangerines you collected last year. Director Song, the canned bottle you purchased has been out of payment for 2 quarters. These people all know that the Song family is down. If you don't come to ask for money, there will be no chance in the future." Faced with more than 100 debt collectors blocking the road, with reporters and the crowd watching, Brother Song did not dare to spit out his temper. He could only bite the bullet and loudly promised, "Money, I will definitely think of a way, even if it's smashing the pot and selling iron, I will also return everyone's money." The crowd surrounded Song Qizi on the third and third floors, fearing that he would run away, and urged, "Director Song, we will follow you to make money." How can Song Qizi make money? He can only flicker and say, "Please give me some more time, and give me some more time. What we have time is, we want money. That's it, every time I delay, don't think about running away today. If you don't give money, you will pay for your life." In the last life, the eldest brother planned to divorce his wife, and wanted to give away the tens of thousands of cash left in the family to his wife, and let the wife secretly take care of his mother and younger brother. But the sister-in-law disagreed life and death, and after the accidental death of her elder brother, she used wholesale clothing to support her mentally insane mother-in-law, raise her young son, subsidize Song Viang to finish university, and even repay most of the millions of songs owed. Song Viang recalled his mother's aging and haggard, and recalled the hard work of his sister-in-law. The scenes of the previous life clearly appeared before his eyes. Maybe, God gave him a chance to be born again, and let him come back to compensate his family. Seeing that the debt collector was forced to come over, he had already begun to entangle with his eldest brother. Song Viang took a deep breath and forcibly inserted in the middle and said, "Don't do it, let's talk civilized. The money is fine. I will pay it back, but it will take me half a year." "Who is this?" "The second son of the Song family, he is still studying, I have seen him before." Students who don't understand farts, Go away. Brother Song pulled Song Viang back and said anxiously, Brother, don't make trouble, I will be responsible for everything. Mother Guo Xiaolan also said, Yang Yang, stop making trouble, go back to study at ease. In the eyes of everyone, Song Viang is just a stupid boy who doesn't know the height of the sky. But this stupid boy didn't take millions of debts seriously, he slapped his chest and shouted, I can make a military order and write you a letter of guarantee. As long as I can't pay the debt within half a year, I will pay you my life. Military orders, a very chronological vocabulary, are more grounded than spells and swears. A debt collector sneered, What do I want your life for? I only want money. Yes, we only need money. Guo Xiaolan quickly argued, If you want money, you have to give us time to raise money slowly. The person before said excitedly, I have given you time, since Boss Song was arrested, the cannery's payment hasn't been paid for, it has been several months. Another debt collector said, Sister Guo, I know that Boss Song was wronged. The Song family built a winery with a lot of money, but now it has been confiscated by the government. Only a money-losing cannery is in your hands. You are also very much in your heart. I am wronged. But we must also think about it from our perspective. Our glass factory is a small business, and the whole factory is waiting for the payment of the hundreds of thousands of goods. Can you get the money like this? Before his mother could speak again, Song Viang suddenly sternly said, Tell you, the cannery now owes more than 3 million yuan, which is not a bank loan, but the Song family only has tens of thousands of dollars in cash, and the bank account has long been frozen. You now have more than 100 people, plus the ones who didn't come today. How many tens of thousands of dollars can you get on average? One person can get up to $100 at most. The previous person said, Then what do you say? Forgive the debt. Song Viang immediately said, My dad is the most successful entrepreneur in Rongping City, and I am his son. Do you dare to take a gamble? I will turn tens of thousands of yuan into millions in half a year. You won the bet. I can get back the arrears, and I still pay the interest. If the bet is lost, everyone will only lose the $110. Now make a choice, whether it is to force the Song family to death, and everyone will divide the money. Anyway, take a gamble and get back all the arrears and interest. Everyone looked at each other, and suddenly they didn't know what to say. On the one hand, they really think that forcing will not result, and tens of thousands of dollars is not enough to divide. On the other hand, they are confused by Song Viang, because their expression and tone are too confident, and they are similar to the big companies that used to be the best. Song Shuman's home is too similar. Although Song Shuman has been in jail, his reputation is there, and people still have a little awe and admiration in their hearts. As Song Shuman's son, even if Song Viang is only a student, the creditors still subconsciously give birth to an inexplicable sense of trust. This is an age of believing in miracles, and news of getting rich in society is endless. Maybe, the Song family can really stand up? Of course, some people think otherwise, such as workers in a cannery. The wages of these workers are not high. They have only been owed a few months of wages, and the total sum is only 1 or 2,000 yuan per person. Don't say so much, pay us the salary first. The workers shouted. It used to be a promise with a smile, but now it has become a threat. Song Viang squinted and sneered, Don't you give me a chance? Then we will die, and I will file for bankruptcy tomorrow and auction the factory's fixed assets to repay the debt. According to the law, first of all, the bank loan should be repaid, and then the 3 million owed to you. These money is repaid on a pro rata basis, and ordinary workers can get a salary of up to 10 yuan. Moreover, at that time, the Song family can reasonably avoid debts. It is illegal for you to collect debts again. The workers were dumbfounded for an instant. They didn't even know that they could still play like this, and they didn't know that workers' wages took priority over social debts. Of course, bank loans took priority. Song Viang did not deceive people. Although China had the bankruptcy law in the 1980s, it was not until the early 1990s that private enterprises were allowed to go bankrupt. It has not yet become popular, and some local governments even disagree with the bankruptcy of private enterprises. So that Song Jiaran never thought of filing for bankruptcy in his previous life. It wasn't until half a year after Brother Song's death that the court and the bank jointly liquidated the auction. As a result, the land and machinery were actually sold out. After 10 years of idleness, the real estate developer bought it for development. First promised to be reasonable, followed by a real threat. These debt collectors were finally convinced by Song Viang. They are really afraid of the Song family playing bankruptcy tricks. Okay, we will believe you once. The debt collector of the glassware factory with the most debt suddenly stated that the cannery owed them more than 800,000 yuan, and it was impossible to get the full payment. A wise choice. Song Viang smiled. He must laugh, to make people believe that he is capable of paying back the money, and the sadness of his father's imprisonment can only be temporarily put aside. These people didn't ask Song Viang to write any guarantee, and they left with complicated feelings, and they talked in twos and threes. Guo Xiaolan glanced at the reporters who had not left, and whispered, "Let's go back too." A 17-year-old high school student keeps saying that he can earn millions in half a year, and no one will believe it. Those debt collectors didn't believe it. They were just frightened by the threat of bankruptcy. They were afraid that they would not get a penny. In the mid-1990s, there was a sudden wave of bankruptcy in China, and most of them were playing fake bankruptcy, real bankruptcy, the trick of evading debts. Song Viang's family didn't believe it either. After returning home, the mother and eldest brother sat with frown, racking their brains and couldn't think of a quick way to get money. "Brother, can the cannery still be started?" Song Viang asked. Song Qizi said depressed, "What are you still working on? The warehouses are full. I have been running the market for these 2 months, and the advertising costs have dropped by hundreds of thousands, but the canned food in the factory can't be sold at all." Song Viang began to help the elder brother organize his thoughts. "Brother, have you ever thought about why can't our cans be sold?" Song Qizi said, "In the past, all gifts were given with malted milk extract and canned food. Now gifts are given instead of health products. Only a small number of farmers use canned food as gifts. Also, I heard that Europe and the United States have joined forces in anti-dumping against Chinese canned food. Large canned food companies are unable to export, so they engage in price reduction competition in the country, and small and medium-sized canneries are forced to wait to die." Song Viang analyzed, "In other words, the pressure of competition is increasing, but the market size is decreasing. So there is no way." Song Qizi said. Song Viang said, "Then have you ever thought about changing the positioning of canned food? We don't sell canned food as gifts, but daily consumer goods." "It's useless," Song Qizi repeatedly shook his head, "who buys canned food and plays with it? With that spare money, it's better to buy drinks, biscuits, and candies." Song Viang said again, "We can." "Stop talking," Song Qizi didn't want to discuss any more. "The cannery is definitely not saved. Not only our factory, but the entire Chinese cannery. Brother, I know you want to help the family, but you don't understand many things. You'd better study at ease and take a good university next year." Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com graduated and went to work in a foreign company in a big city. Only then can you live a decent life. Song Viang wanted to say more, but the eldest brother had already discussed the countermeasures with his mother, and the family didn't believe in his ability at all. After discussing for a while, my mother started calling frantically, "Hey, I'm looking for Manager Yang. I'm Guo Xiaolan from Jiafeng Winery. Manager Yang isn't there." "Okay, I'll call you back." "Hey, President Zhang, this is Guo Xiaolan. You want a meeting?" "That's okay, I'll talk about it another day." Hey, Manager Lee. Guo Xiaolan made more than a dozen calls in one breath, all of whom were close friends in the past. It was obvious that he did not borrow a cent. Sister-in-law Cai Fenghua has brought her son back from the hospital. She said, should I go back to my natal house and ask? Guo Xiaolan shook his head and said, my family is upright, he probably didn't save a lot of money. Cai Fenghua's father was also the director of a state-owned enterprise before, but he retired 3 years ago. Only his elder brother worked in the Qing Shui Yuan of the Archives Bureau. Brother Song was smoking a cigarette, and said helplessly, just file for bankruptcy. My mother was a little moved and worried, I'm afraid that the government will not approve it. There is no precedent for the bankruptcy of a private company in our city. Brother Song said, although people take the tea to cool, but Dad still retains a bit of face. It shouldn't be difficult to file for bankruptcy because of activities. S mother clapped and said, I will go to the leader tomorrow. Song Viang didn't speak anymore, and let him say that if he broke the sky, his family would not believe that he really had that ability. His only contribution was to propose a solution to bankruptcy, leaving at least a way out for his mother and brother. P.S. If you have friends who are cultivating immortals, please come to a wave of clicks and recommendations after 12 o'clock to help make the new book list. Thank you, Old Wang. Flowers bloom and fall, flowers bloom and fall. Long time, long river. A myth is a wave of waves, and a myth is a teardrop. There is you in the gathering, and me in the gathering, you and I are all passing by in a hurry. At 8 o'clock in the evening, Feng Shen Bang is being played on TV, and Mao Amin's singing is still so pleasing to the ears. The broken TV station in Rongping City specializes in picking up other people's remaining dramas. Feng Shen Bang, which was filmed 3 years ago, was still first broadcast on Rongping TV station, and its ratings were extremely high. In recent years, except for some city residents who have installed closed-circuit televisions, most people can only receive 3 channels, namely, the Central Channel, the Provincial Channel, and the City Channel. When the 83rd edition of Shooting the Condor was first broadcast on the City Channel last year, it immediately caused a sensation in the city, and even the sellers of pirated novels made a fortune. It is a pity that the whole family is not in the mood to watch TV. Guo Xiaolan kept making phone calls to find relationships, and finally met with a deputy mayor to talk about the bankruptcy of the cannery. Song Viang returned to his room silently, playing a pirated tape of Michael Jackson with Sony's genuine Walkman. MJ's tapes are hard to find, not to mention the genuine ones, even the pirated ones are obtained from provincial cities. Song Viang picked up the piggy bank next to the computer monitor while listening to the song. Porcelain Fatty Blue, the bamboo dragonfly on his head can be lifted, Song Viang has the change and stuffed it inside. Shook it, crashed, and then slammed on the ground. The coins were scattered with broken tiles, and some banknotes were mixed in between. Song Viang picked it up and counted slowly, a total of 103 yuan, 8 mao, and 6 points. This amount of money was obviously not enough. He rummaged through his memory and finally found a few passbooks in the bookcase. It was the lucky money given by the elders before, and it was more than 4,000 yuan. This was not a small sum in 1993. I have the startup capital, and I can go out and give it a try. Song Viang did not choose to convince his mother and elder brother. Although he was certain to revitalize the cannery, the operation was too laborious. First of all, it is necessary to purchase fresh fruits on credit from fruit farmers, and then to persuade the workers to start the work again. It is also necessary to provide newly designed packaging boxes and glass jars with cooperative enterprises. Others are not fools, who will cooperate with you without money. The most urgent task is to get a sum of money, tens of millions of dollars, at least to let fruit farmers, workers, and cooperative enterprises see hope. Song Viang found the school bag and put away the change and passbook. His mother, eldest brother, and sister-in-law were still discussing the details of the bankruptcy. He walked straight through the living room to his parents' bedroom and found 2 suits of his father in the closet. This is the necessary equipment for going out to make money. Young Song Vyang has a tender face and can barely support the scene in a suit. Ding dong, ding dong. When I returned to the living room again, the doorbell rang suddenly. It is not the debt collector who came, but Song Vyang's eldest uncle and younger uncle. When the Song family was well developed, Song Vyang's 3 uncles all benefited, and all became workers and became urban household registrations. As a result, as soon as Song Shimin had an accident, his second uncle and younger uncle were immediately laid off, and only the hard-working uncle remained in the factory. The second uncle and the second aunt belonged to witty-eyed wolves, and they actually began to complain about the Song family, thinking that it was Song Shimin who prevented them from being workers. Even fearing that the Song family would ask them to borrow money, they cut off contact, and hadn't moved around for 2 or 3 months. "Brother, youngest, why are you here? Sit down and eat fruit." Guo Xiaolan greeted quickly. Is different from the second uncle's selfish greed. The elder uncle is honest and honest, the younger uncle is pure and greedy. The uncle wore the work clothes in the factory with calluses on his hands. He took out a plastic bag and said, "Sister, I heard about today. I took a leave in the afternoon and went to the bank to take out the money. 1,000 yuan, you can take it first." Uncle was dressed glamorously, wearing famous brands all over his body, and sprayed with mousse on his hair. She was a little embarrassed to say, "Sister, I can't save money, I only have more than 1,000. Don't you think it's too small?" Guo Xiaolan quickly declined, "Get it back soon." Uncle persuaded, "It's your own family, so don't be polite." My uncle lighted a cigarette, and Diao said cheekily on his mouth, "That's right, my family doesn't care about that. If you have any difficulties in the future, just open your mouth. The big deal is that I won't smoke hung tashan anymore. If I feel wronged, I will smoke red plums." Song Vyang held the suit in his arms and couldn't help but amused, "Uncle, when I make money, I promise to let you smoke imported cigarettes every day." Uncle happily said, "You don't need foreign cigarettes, just soft China. In the last life, my brother-in-law has been very free and easy, and he didn't get married until he was 38 years old. Unexpectedly, the beautiful wife ran away with a rich man. In order to raise his long-sick son, my brother-in-law drove a taxi all day long and even quit smoking. Later, with the help of Song Vyang, he opened a small supermarket. Regardless of whether or not he can help, Song Vyang must bear in mind that the eldest uncle and younger uncle are giving charcoal in the snow. As for the witty-eyed wolf of the second uncle, haha, don't mention it." To be honest, the 2 uncles still insisted on keeping the money, and left together without a sip of water. Guo Xiaolan sighed, collected the money, and said to her son and daughter-in-law, "Go to bed, and get up early tomorrow. I have an appointment with Deputy Mayor Hao to talk about bankruptcy." "Boss, your wallet is 50,000 yuan. Remember to bring the Mao Tai in the cabinet with you. Second child, don't worry about it and review your homework at home." Song Qizi immediately ran to the cabinet to get Mao Tai, while Song Vyang quietly returned to the room to pack his luggage. The next day, early in the morning, mother and eldest brother went out to work with gifts. Song Vyang also wandered off with a bulging school bag, and only used the mouse to press a note, "Mom, I'm going to make money. Don't worry, you will be back after school starts at the latest." When passing by the living room, he found the 81style military stab of his eldest brother resting on the coffee table, and Song Vyang picked it up and put it in his school bag. First came to the bank. Song Vyang took out more than a dozen passbooks and ID cards, put them on the counter and said, "Withdraw money." The teller is a middle-aged woman with a big waist. She calculated the amount and saw that Song Vyang was only 17 years old. She immediately turned into 007, and said vigilantly, "Thousands of dollars? Call your parents to get it." "Well, the thousands of dollars this year are really huge, especially in such a small southwestern city. Song Viang can only move out of his father's name again. Auntie, my father is Song Shuman. Song Shuman, do you know? These are all the lucky money I saved before. The teller aunt suddenly realized that she started processing immediately, and soon cashed out the money. When Song Viang left the bank with the money, the teller's mother instantly refreshed, her face flushed, and she left her seat to gossip with her colleagues. I heard that Song Shuman has been sentenced for more than 8 years, and the family is blocked by debtors and dare not go out. Now, his son has come to take the New Year's Eve money, and he must use it to pay off his debts. Tisk tisk, the future will be sad. The colleague quickly finished the business, ignored the next customer who was waiting to withdraw the money, and chatted enthusiastically, who said no, this person, it would be bad luck to say that bad luck. Song Shuman used to be very beautiful. Last year he gave it to his mother-in-law. After our birthday, even our vice president will have to go to drink in person. Now it's miserable. I don't want to talk about it. My wife and son are still in debt. Song Shuman is still a bit wronged. The winery is clearly his own, and now he has been convicted of corruption and bribery. Fart. Do you know how much assets he transferred? Tens of millions. Really have to be sentenced for this crime, enough for him to sit and wear. That's true. The management of the winery has been smashed down for a string. Song Shuman's case is over, and other people's cases can be qualitative. Look at it, there are still a bunch of 3 to 5 years sentenced. The two tellers started talking, but the customer waiting to do the business became impatient, and urged, "Hey, do you still go to work at the bank?" The teller aunt was also annoyed, and she immediately went back. "What is the noise? I won't do it for you anymore. What is your attitude?" The customer said angrily. The teller mother did not show any weakness. "I have this attitude. If you are good, you should report it to the leader and see if you can fire me." "Hey, I still have to reflect today, what the hell? Do you dare to yell at me? Okay, you want to withdraw money, right? I won't take it to you today." After 3 hours, the customer began to subdue, and smiled softly. "Sister, you are good, I am wrong today, I spoke too aggressively." The teller aunt arrogantly snorted and said, "You were the one who was wrong, so I have nothing to do with me, so I just mess with me. Then my money. It's almost off work, you can pick it up in the afternoon." Carrying a school bag full of personal belongings, carrying his father's briefcase, and carrying 4,638 yuan, 80.6 cents, Song Viang finally embarked on the train to the provincial capital. His ultimate goal was to transfer to the special zone. Since the great man visited the south last year, the spring breeze of reform has blown across the earth, and the whole of China has become crazy and restless. People wash away the last trace of innocence and try their best to look at the money, look at the thick. Countless state-owned enterprise employees and civil servants choose to go to the sea to do business, which has ushered in a savage and crazy material era. These days, going to the sea represents business, not an island action movie female worries into the industry. Of course, in terms of making money, the goals of the two are the same. Times make heroes. They chose to go to the sea last year. They were later collectively referred to as the 92 faction, which left a strong mark in the history of Chinese business. They founded Guardian Auctions, Taikeng Life Insurance, Wantung Group, Huiwen Group, Smart Company, International Futures Company. China in the early 1990s was full of wildness. The desire for reform that had been backlogged for many years was completely let go, and everything seemed to be growing savagely. Many behaviors that are obviously illegal in the future are grey and ambiguous at this time. Countless loopholes are waiting for you to take advantage of, and the government and public opinion encourage you to take advantage of it, because no one knows that these things are beneficial or harmful to reform, and both the government and the people need to try. In the process of crossing the river by feeling the stones, the hero and the liar are all down. There are two super liars, one is Wang Hongcheng, who invented water to oil, and the other is Shen Teifu, who invented energy-saving motor. Both of them deceived to the level of the national ministries and commissions, and Shen Teifu even won the praise of Fei Xiaotong. They are still at large at this time, but it won't be long before Shen Teifu will be sentenced to execution next year. By the way, Mr. Fei Xiaotong, a master of the Republic of China, turned into a super poisonous milk after the reform and opening up. It can be said that whoever died, he wrote articles many times praising the Southern Jiangsu model, but the Southern Jiangsu model completely collapsed after 10 years of prosperity, and he wrote an article praising the Great Wall model, and Shen Teifu was quickly shot to death. As for commercial heroes, there are many, and two of them are the most popular. A hero is called Shi Yuzhu. He is a well-deserved young entrepreneurial idol. At this time, Shi Yuzhu's image is extremely inspirational. A young man from a border town came to the special zone with his luggage on his back. He started from scratch with high technology. In a few years, he has hundreds of millions of assets, and his money is clean. It was not until more than 10 years later that when people mentioned Shi Yuzhu again, their impression of him was only the words melatonin, golden partner, Zhengtu, and Krypton gold godfather. Another hero is Mao Zhongzhong, who is recognized as a business genius at this time. This gentleman wrote an article "Where is China Going" in 1974 and was sentenced to death. Fortunately, he was forgotten in prison by mistake. 3 years ago, as an intermediate commercial canned food, Mao's Hongai made 100 million yuan after changing hands. Yuyuganshu.com became famous all over the country for a while. In the next few years, he will also put forward a series of unconstrained ideas, such as blasting a hole in the Himalayas and introducing the warm and humid air currents of the Indian Ocean to transform the arid region of northwest China. In the end, he also became a liar, ending in life imprisonment. In China in the 1990s, academic entrepreneurs did not exist at all. They were all brutalists who did not play their cards according to common sense. Even after graduating from a prestigious school, even if a senior official goes to the sea, they are equally keen to take risks, because that way the money is too fast. In the original words of the owner of Sanjiawaita Izao, there are so many assets idle in society. This is a great opportunity for Sanjiu to pick peaches down the mountain. Don't miss it. After you pass this village, you won't have this shop. Boss Zhao went down the mountain to pick peaches everywhere, and finally choked himself to death, leaving a mess and went into the prison. This is a wild age full of vitality, and the ground is full of gold. A person with ability and vision lacks not the opportunity to make a fortune, but the self-control in the face of benefits. There is too much gold, some poisonous, some hidden knives. A little carelessness can poison the gold picker to death. The former Song Viang was ignorant in the 1990s. When he returned to his 17 years old, he found countless golden mountains piled up in front of him. What he needs to do is to identify which gold is poisonous and which gold mountain has hidden knives, and he can easily avoid it. But the terrible situation at home now makes Song Viang no longer allowed to be cautious. He must come to a thrilling performance. If Song Viang has a system in his mind, he will definitely issue a task to him at this time: please make a full 1 million in 2 months. It's a pity, there is no system, and no novice spree. A 17-year-old boy, he walked along with his bare hands, hitting his own piece of sky on the turbulent rivers and lakes. During the Republic of China, Rongping City was still poor in mountains and rivers, and Diao people appeared endlessly. Even if New China is established, there is still a man who proclaimed himself emperor in the nest, who was appointed a queen and concubine, and was widely named the prime minister. In the end, he was attacked by the county police for 10 miles and fell into national destruction, leaving behind a ridiculous legend. Probably in the late 1960s, the country was preparing for World War III and began a large-scale third-line construction inland. The remote city of Rongping has finally come to life. Not only has central enterprises moved in, but also railways have been opened. Even the administrative area has more than doubled. Randomly, since the 1980s, the industry in Rongping city has been dying. Song Shuman is definitely a star entrepreneur in the local area. Under his auspices, he has successfully revitalized several state-owned enterprises. If it weren't for playing too far ahead, the city leaders would have to treat him as an ancestor. After all, the provincial leaders would choose Song's winery every time they visited. The 10-story department store building in was also invested by Song Shuman 2 years ago. The 8th, 9th, and 10th floors are used for hotels. Anyone who comes to Rongping City will definitely choose to stay here, which greatly broadens the social relationship with Boss Song. Because of this, Song Shuman committed such a serious matter, which dragged on for nearly half a year, and finally sentenced him to 8.5 years in prison. Song Viang was passing by the department store on the bus, feeling full of emotion. If his father didn't act so fiercely, he could live at home and become a rich second generation with peace of mind. The 10-story building is still located in the city center. After 20 years, it can be calculated in units of 100 million yuan. Unfortunately, it has now been nationalized. Arrived at the station, get off as soon as possible. Don't waste time. The conductor yelled fiercely, pulling the money in one hand and the ticket box in the other, staring at the direction of the door. It seemed that a passenger was slow, she was about to kick him down. And the people in the car are not surprised, subconsciously speeding up their pace, gushing from the door that has not been fully opened. The railway station is very old and the outer walls are stained with black coal ash. The coal from the only central enterprise in the city has to be transported from here. Song Viang just walked to the window where he was queuing to buy tickets, and he saw someone using a blade to draw a bag. He didn't make a sound reminder, because he couldn't manage it at all, so he could only take a more cautious look at his belongings. The public security in the early 1990s was very, very messy, with vicious cases emerging one after another. Take the train as an example, almost to the point where there is an open flame. At night, gangsters often turn their luggage one by one. They hold knives in groups, and even if travelers find out, they can only choose to pretend to sleep. The grass is rampant. Because of this, 10 years after the 83rd crackdown, the central government launched the 93rd crackdown. There must be unjust, false, and wrong cases. Song Viang took away his elder brother's 8.1 style military stab when he went out, which was also a precaution. If someone robbed him of his startup funds, if there were too many people, he would admit it, and when there were a few people, he would try his best to stabbing them to death. After all, during the crackdown, maybe the police will reward him for doing what is right. Boarded the train cautiously, and waited for the train to leave the station at more than 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Tourism is underdeveloped these years, there are few summer passengers, and the seats are spacious enough for Song Viang to lie down. Nothing happened all the way, and arrived in the provincial capital about evening. Song Viang slept in the waiting hall for the whole night. Early in the morning, he was queuing up to buy a ticket with buns, only to get a seat. After all, this is a provincial city. Passengers from all over the province need to transfer here to go to the coast. On the 10 o'clock train, Song Viang was holding a school bag and briefcase, with a sheathed Type 81 military stab at his waist. He was sweating all over his body in minutes. No air conditioning, no air conditioning, no air conditioning, important things need to be said 3 times. Under the scorching sun, the carriage turned into an oven, coupled with the crowded passengers, the feeling is beyond words. Fortunately, the next person is a gentle middle-aged man. If you encounter someone with body odor, you can definitely let Song Viang die before he leaves his teacher. "Little brother, please help," the middle-aged man said, holding up the big box. Song Viang had to stand in the aisle, help put the other person's box on the luggage rack, and said casually, "It's quite heavy, it's worth £100. The two put their luggages together, and the middle-aged man took out his business card and said, "A little souvenir, sample, take it to the coast to explore the market." "Little brother, what is your name? You look like a student." "My face is tender, I'm 25 years old," Song Viang said casually, "Mengui surnamed Ma Chiang Dong." The middle-aged smiled and said, "Brother Ma is really not old." Song Viang lowered his head and glanced at the business card, which was printed with words such as Lu Bin, General Manager of Shenlan Trading Company. He didn't take it seriously. These years, managers were walking all over the floor, and there were so many bosses. A billboard fell down and shot 10 dead. 9.5 of them were managers, and the remaining half were assistants. Song Viang put away his business card and asked, "Brother Lu went to the sea, right?" Lu Bin helped his glasses, and said, "A little ass, the little section chief is boring in front of me. I still have to go to the sea to do business. You know Mu Zhong, the one who exchanges canned food for planes. I have dealt with him, as long as I do business. When he got up, he promised to invest me 10 million. Awesome." Song Viang complimented him with a thumbs up, and mourned for 30 seconds in his heart. The little section chief who went to the sea to do business in front of him didn't make any money. It's okay to say that if he can really get the business up, he will definitely be driven to death by Mao Zhong. The two babbled without a word, and the other passengers also came. A little old man in his 50s. His suit is a bit too big, and he is too hot to take off. It sticks to his body softly with sweat. A beautiful woman in her 20s, wearing a good shirt, 2 braids, sweat on her forehead, flushed cheeks, looking down from her neck so fierce. The girl slapped her as a fan for a few times, then got up and pushed the car window hard, and said to the little old man, "Uncle, come sit here. By the window, it's windy and cool." "It's okay, I'll carry the heat," the little old man said. Lu Bin stared at the girl's chest for a long time. He didn't look back until the train started, and proactively struck up a conversation. "Listen to the two accents, are they from Kongnan?" The girl didn't speak, but the old man replied, "Kongnan is here." Lu Bin hit the snake on the stick and immediately took out his business card. "Who can? I know Kongnan, and I have conducted research with the leader many times." You reading www.yunsha.com. Kangnan Steel Casting Factory knows, right? Director Wei is my buddy. Hearing this, the girl was also attracted, and quickly asked, "Are you familiar with the cotton mill?" Lu Bin immediately patted his chest, "Cooked. The director of the cotton spinning mill is called Zhong Yuan Chao. I have drunk with him." "Are you familiar with him?" The girl was surprised, and said to the little old man, "Uncle, he really knows factory manager Zhong." "Ahem." The little old man coughed dryly, seemingly reluctant to communicate. Lu Bin's face is very thick, and he is familiar with himself. "Are you going to Huazhu or Shenzhen?" The girl was unsuspecting and replied, "Go to the deep city." "What a coincidence, I will also go to the deep city," Lu Bin reminded. "Do you have a border pass?" "What pass?" the girl said in a daze. Lu Bin said, "You need a permit to enter the special zone. You can't get there without a permit." The girl was a little panicked, and asked the little old man sideways, "Uncle, what should I do?" The little old man squinted his eyes and said, "We have the certificate, and we have done it a long time ago." "Peaches, there are many bad people outside, don't talk nonsense." "Oh." The girl immediately lowered her head. Lu Bin glanced at the little old man suspiciously, but he didn't think much about it. It is indeed necessary to be cautious when going out. Song Viang sat next to him and kept silent, staring at the girl from time to time. He felt that this woman was very familiar, where he should have seen it in the previous life, but he couldn't remember it for a moment. "Hello, my name is Ma Chiang Dong. Song Viang suddenly stretched out his palm. The girl seemed to be very uncomfortable with the handshake ceremony. She stretched her hand halfway and retracted, nodding shyly, "My name is Chen Tao." Song Viang searched for intestines and thought about it for a long time, but couldn't remember when he met a beautiful woman named Chen Tao. Maybe it's just a coincidence. China's population has increased, and it is normal for a few people to look alike. Dirty boom. The night gradually shrouded, and the train passed through the undulating countryside. Song Viang admired the night and ate instant noodles in a bucket. The girl named Chen Tao ate the steamed buns and drank water. She looked up at him from time to time. She seemed very greedy for the deliciousness of instant noodles. Lu Bin, as a small boss who goes to the sea to do business, naturally has to eat a lunch box to meet his identity. This servant was both lustful and stingy. He kept talking to the girl, but he was reluctant to invite the girl to a box lunch. He just kept boasting that he was big and well-connected. The little old man seemed very impatient, and finally couldn't help but said, "No matter how mad, I'm calling the police." I'm used to it, I'm used to it, brother, don't care." Lu Bin suddenly smiled in embarrassment. Song Viang was too lazy to mix things up, cleaned up the noodle bucket, closed his eyes and started to doze. Last night at the provincial railway station, Song Viang didn't have much rest. At this moment, I closed my eyes and slept for several hours, in a daze, only listening to the noise in the carriage. It seemed that something had happened. Song Viang subconsciously grasped the knife handle of the army stab, opened his eyes and asked, "What's the matter?" Lu Bin looked very flustered, and tremblingly said, "There is someone robbing money in the next car, and he may be coming over soon." The little old man directed the girl to move quickly. They took out some change and put it in their pockets for the criminals to take away. The rest of the money was naturally hidden in the inner layer for safekeeping. Lu Bin also learned to do the same when he saw it. He stuffed a wad of banknotes into his underwear, then leaned on the seat and snored and pretended to sleep. Unfortunately, his trembling body exposed him. Will they kill people? Hide the money, pretend to sleep and let them search. Believe me, I have experience, and they will leave when they get the money. Don't speak out, don't resist, don't irritate those people. Find the police. The police are useless, come to grab a photo. Would you like to hide in car No. 7? Can't hide, these people must search the entire train. Children living in the new century can hardly understand the madness of the 90s, and it is even harder to imagine someone daring to grab a complete train one by one. Just as everyone was panicking, a brawny man with a Chinese character stood up and shouted, "Don't make any noise, I am the People's Liberation Army." He walked to the other passenger and asked, "What is going on? Make it clear." The passenger said, "I just went to relieve my hand and saw that there were a lot of money grabbers next door, searching for bags one by one next to the seat." "How many are stealing money?" the brawny man asked. "Dozens, maybe a dozen," the passenger said. The strong man said speechlessly, "How many are there?" The passenger said, "Anyway, there are more than one or two, and they are also very fierce with knives." Seeing that he couldn't find out what was going on, the brawny man immediately walked to the toilet and spied for a while before turning back. Standing in the middle of the car, he shouted, "I am the People's Liberation Army. Now a group of gangsters are robbing in the car next door, and they are likely to come. Party members, soldiers, and public security officers will all stand up for me and test us." There was no response, and the noisy carriage suddenly became quiet. All of them pretended not to be asleep. The brawny man was a little angry, but he still resisted cursing and said, "When the gangsters come, everyone must pay attention to safety. I will go to other cars to find someone, and I will be back soon." Song Viang saw someone coming up, and they weren't rash. He immediately felt hopeful, stood up and smiled and said, "Uncle Pla, I'm not a member of the Communist Youth League, can I be a member of the Communist Youth League?" The brawny man couldn't laugh or cry, nodded and said, "Yes, the young pioneers will do, just follow me." Song Viang patted Lu Bin on the shoulder. "Manager Lu, please help me." Lu Bin set aside his legs to give way, said nothing, and continued to pretend to sleep. The girl opened her eyes and watched Song Viang leave her seat, and whispered to remind, "Be careful, they have knives." "Yet." Song Viang nodded and agreed. The brawny man glanced at Song Viang and warned, "Are you a student? Don't rush forward later, all actions are under the command." Song Viang took out the 81style military stab, handed it over and said, "I didn't use it well, lend it to you." "Have you ever been a soldier?" The brawny man was surprised when he took the assassination. "My brother was once," Song Viang said. The brawny man pulled out his army thorns, stroked the 4 blood tanks on the front and back, and praised, "It's well maintained, your brother must be a good soldier." The two soon came to the next compartment, and the strong man shouted again, "I am the People's Liberation Army. Now there is a group of gangsters robbing next door, and they will come soon. Party members, soldiers, and police all stood up for me to test. Our time has come. There is no suspense, and this carriage is also in panic. I am a party member, I will go with you." Suddenly a voice sounded. Song Viang followed the fame, but saw a fat middle-aged man in a suit and leather shoes, with fat head and big ears, and a belly like a pregnant woman in October. Such an image looks like a corrupt bureaucrat, but now he looks generous and righteous. The fat man walked over to shake hands with the strong man, and said to himself, "Hello, comrade, this is Zheng Suihong, Deputy Director of the Mengping County Sports Bureau." The strong man said, "Hello comrade, I am He Gang, an instructor of a certain unit of the Chinese People's Liberation Army." Ran several carriages in a row, and more than 10 people gathered around the strong man. There are soldiers, police officers, civil servants, and people like Song Viang who follow spontaneously. People have various weapons in their hands. Even the fat man named Zheng Suihong is holding a thermos. It seems that he wants to use this stuff. Let's smash people. Song Viang carried a bottle of home-produced canned fruit, which had not been opened yet, and was quite a little excited. Fighting and messing things up is the most interesting. The brawny man began to lay out the battle plan. He said, "I have roughly observed that there are at least 20 gangsters, and the leader has a fire gun in his hand. We can't do it arbitrarily. First, we will pretend to be ordinary passengers and follow my orders before we act together. If there is really no chance, then give up resisting, saving your life is the most important thing. Do you understand?" Understood. Everyone was in high spirits. In this era, passion, justice, and madness are the most indispensable. The blood of self-defense and counterattack is still hidden in people's hearts. Song Viang felt that something was missing. There was still a BGM for the scene. The brawny man led the team back to the scene of the crime, perhaps because there were so many people, and a few more passengers joined along the way. The carriage where Song Viang was in was already occupied by the robbery gang, and everyone immediately chose to set up ambush in the next carriage. After about a few more minutes, the gangsters finally came over, the leader holding the gunpowder gun without saying a word, and the little ones quickly searched for the passengers' belongings. The whole process of the robbery was very quiet. The money robs did not speak, and the robbed ones were also pretending to sleep. Everyone knew nothing about it. Song Viang sat leaning on the aisle, half squinting, and soon a gangster came to look through his school bag. There is no cash in the school bag. Reading www.yuyugonshu.com, the other party starts to flip through the briefcase again, and then touches him directly. "What?" The gangster pressed Song Viang's crotch, and there was a big pile of heart inside, and he knew that he had hidden a lot of money by his hand. Did not wait for the gangster to pick Song Viang's pants, only heard the strong man shout, "Go! Go!" Song Viang picked up the canned fruit and smashed it on the gangster's forehead. The glass bottle broke at the sound, and the glass splashed with sugar water and sweet orange. As for the bandit leader with a fire gun, he had no chance to shoot, and was directly disarmed by the People's Liberation Army uncle, with the Type 81 army stab at his throat. As long as this guy dares to move, the 4 fearsome blood tanks are enough to drain the blood from his body. Let down your weapons, the People's Liberation Army will not kill the prisoners. With the roar of the strong man, the passengers who had swallowed their breath before also broke out in a group, frantically rushing to fight with the gangsters. Simply and neatly. Repay the hard-earned money of my old mother. An ant threw the gangster down without saying, she just slapped the gangster, and directly slapped the bad guy. Of course, there were also wounded, and the fatty deputy chief's arm was cut. His thermos was not very useful, and in the end he grabbed the blade empty-handed and stood up against the gangster. I practiced weightlifting back then. The fat man said arrogantly afterwards. The strong man the gang leader and threw it back to the 81style army stab with a smile, little brother, thanks. You don't need to thank you, the army and the people are like fish and water. Song Viang clutched the huge sum of money in his crotch, feeling lingering. If it were not for the leader of the army, Song Viang's 4,000 yuan startup capital would have been snatched away by these bastards. At this time, China is like a wild mode opened, and even going out to make money is not stable. The finishing work was very trivial. The police vacated the dining compartment for work and notified other passengers to come and retrieve the stolen property. Of course, it's not that you'll give it to you as soon as you report it, and you have to take out your identity card to register your unit and address. Under this premise, almost no one dared to lie about the situation, and the difference was only a few hundred yuan. Most of the individual passengers remembered it incorrectly. When Song Viang and the brawny returned to their carriage, they were immediately embraced by heroes. The passengers stood up and applauded, and various snacks and fruits were stuffed into their arms. Brother Ma, great! Lu Bin gave a thumbs up. The girl despised manager Lu, turned her head and said admiringly, Brother Ma, you are amazing. Song Viang returned to his seat, he smiled and said, in general, I didn't work hard. The one who is really strong is the comrade of the People's Liberation Army. By the way, have you got your money back? The girl said, it's not our turn yet. A police officer came to register just now. Then you wait to get the money, I'll sleep for a while. Song Viang was really sleepy. About 4 o'clock in the morning, the train stopped in a prefecture-level city, and more than 20 gangsters were handed over to the local public security department. During the crackdown, fighting against the wind was enough to kill a lot of people. Song Viang slept dimly. He woke up at 7:30 in the morning and saw a round pie face when he opened his eyes. Brother, go to the dining car for dinner. The fat director Zheng Suihong said with a smile. Song Viang said, I won't go anymore, just eat a bottle of canned food. Zheng Suihong stretched out and handed the person directly, go, the brothers who fought last night are all there, let's open a few bottles of wine to celebrate. Song Viang had to get up with his bag on his back and asked, isn't my brother's injury getting in the way? It's okay, just a few holes. Zheng Suihong said as he walked, hooking up with Song Viang. Where is that comrade of the People's Liberation Army? Song Viang asked again. Zheng Suihong said, I got off the bus at the last stop. He went back to his hometown to visit relatives. The dining compartment seemed to have been vacated on purpose and left for the heroes to have a celebration banquet. The other passengers had no objection to this. Some have gotten off early, including Song Viang, and there are still 14 brave people left. A conductor in uniform opened Mutai with a smile and said, on behalf of all the staff and passengers of this train, thank you all heroes. Everyone eats and drinks well. Everything is free. Our leader said that you can reimburse you when you go back. Friends who have not registered, remember to register after eating, and we will send a letter of thanks to your organization or the neighborhood committee. You are so kind. Brothers, raise the cup. Brother, this is my business card, I will keep in touch later. It's easy to talk, come on, drink. The atmosphere in the dining car quickly heated up, and friends who had never known each other became intimate because they had fought together. Song Viang was reluctant, and was caught drinking several glasses of wine, and received a bunch of contact information. Those who did not have a business card wrote his address directly on the paper. Pushing the cup and changing the cup, getting drunk, a few of them went directly to the station, and took the free train back. One day and one night, the journey ends, and the train drove into Hwaju. All the passengers flocked down. This is the terminal station. If you want to go to the deep city, you have to buy a ticket and transfer. The girl named Chen Tao carried the box and seemed to want to say something to Song Viang, but was washed away by the crowd every minute. Song Viang walked to the platform with a bag on his back, but within a few steps he ran into Chief Fatty again. My brother, what a coincidence, Zheng Suihong smiled and took out a cigarette, come on one. It's a coincidence. Song Viang clamped the cigarette to his ear. When the celebration banquet was held, everyone was already very familiar, and this fat chief also went to the deep city to fish for gold. Well, the deputy director of the county sports bureau did not do it, and chose to go to the sea to do business. This is a normal thing in this era. It's just staying without pay. Even if he gets a bump in the special zone, Zheng Suihong can go back and continue to be an official. The two chatted all the way, and they came to the ticket office together. Song Viang was about to take the opportunity to go around, but Zheng Suihong was directly confused. Do you need a border pass to go to the deep city? Zheng Suihong asked stupidly. Song Viang said silently, you came here without knowing it. No one told me. Zheng Suihong was so depressed that he was trembling with fat. There are more than 1 or 2 dazed like Zheng Suihong. Before the special ticket purchase window in the deep city, many hot-blooded youths became desperate. I was even more unlucky. I chose to resign and go to the sea in my hometown. I came to the SAR for gold mining with all my wealth. I was stolen on the way, and I ran into a wall at Hwaju railway station. I didn't even have the qualifications to enter the SAR. If you want to enter the special zone, the general process is like this. First open a letter of introduction at the original unit or neighborhood committee, and then apply for a pass at the relevant local department. If it's okay and you don't have money, it will take at least 3 to 5 months to approve it. After getting the pass, take the train to Hwaju, buy a ticket at the special window, and you can embark on the train to the deep city. Song Viang certainly didn't have a pass. Damn, just go back like this without being laughed to death by the grandsons in the bureau. Zheng Suihong sat on the ground and didn't want to get up. Seeing that because of the fate of fighting together, Song Viang intends to help, and smiled, brother really wants to go to the deep city. Zheng Suihong rubbed his fat face, and said in a bad mood, nonsense, or what am I doing? Let's go, I promise to take you there, Song Viang said. Zheng Suihong stood up, there was no more than 200 caddies of bloatedness at all, he asked in a low voice, is there a way, brother? Song Viang pointed outside, I have no way, but there must be someone else. That's right, this is a good deal. Zheng Suihong's squinted eyes burst into a cunning light. Tacitly, the two of them walked out of the train station with their bags, smoked and wandered casually, and soon discovered the special situation. Not far from the railway station, there have been several vans parked on the side of the road for a long time, and people get in and drive away from time to time, and passengers often carry large and small bags of luggage. Go over and ask. Zheng Suihong threw away the cigarette and said. Song Viang immediately followed, and he also needed a travel partner to prevent being murdered halfway through. Anything can happen these days, and you must have a clear heart, at least this fat chief is capable of fighting. Coming to a van, Zheng Suihong knocked on the window pane and asked, "Brother, shall we go to the special zone?" "Don't go, Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com won't go." The driver waved his hands again and again, and it seemed that they had a fixed source of goods and were not easy to accept individual passengers. Zheng Suihong passed the flue, "It's convenient." The driver heard him speak with a foreign accent, mostly not a plainclothes police officer. After thinking about it, he said, 800 per person, you will pass the customs. Song Viang said, 800 is too expensive, how about 100? Go away. The driver was not even in the mood to bargain. Zheng Suihong quickly said, 300. 600, get out if you don't want to. The driver didn't have a good air. Song Viang and Zheng Suihong looked at each other and nodded at the same time, deal. In fact, they also have a way to save money, that is, go to the periphery of the deep city by themselves, and then find the opportunity to drill the wire fence. But this is too time-consuming, and there is a certain risk. Song Viang does not want to delay, Zheng Suihong is also afraid of trouble. Before long, a snakehead brought a group of people over, and they all packed into the van without any explanation. Song Viang and Chief Fatty were so crowded that they could not move. The driver quickly started the car, drove out of the city, and stopped in the wilderness until late in the evening. Get off, follow me, don't make a noise. Someone answered. The fat director got out of the car rolling, tired, hot, and hungry, sticking out his tongue and saying, "Damn, it's just like enemy agents." Song Viang was also sour and limp. The big fart van was packed with more than a dozen people with luggage. He couldn't move his hands and feet for most of the day. It looked like canned sardines. They were lucky if they didn't suffocate. Under the cover of the night, the responder took them to a remote place and lifted up a small piece of barbed wire and said, "Going past is the special zone." Zheng Suihong muttered, "It's really like a dog hole." "Drill it." Song Viang said. Is on the 6th day of the lunar calendar, and a crescent moon is high in the night sky. Stowaways are like mice, lining up through the narrow dog hole. Although they don't know each other, they have a tacit understanding and try not to make any noise. Sizzle. The sound of broken cloth broke the silence, and the fat chief climbed halfway, turning around and screaming, "Loud Zuz trousers, brand goods." Ha 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 ha. Finally someone couldn't help but laughed while covering their mouths. Zheng Suihong immediately became angry and said, "Laugh a fart, don't make a noise." No one answered him, everyone started to discuss in a low voice which way to go. "Left, I see a lot of lights over there. There is also light in the south." "Which side is south?" "We came from the north, and the front is the south. Just go to the place where the lights are the brightest, and you should be right." "Yes, I heard that the Special Economic Zone is a city that never sleeps. The lights are on all night. Comrades, everyone is broken into pieces to fight guerrillas. Don't let the border guards give it to you." "I agree. We have too many people and big goals, we have to go separately." A group of guys who grew up watching the old Three Wars movie, with high morale, live learning and use, swiftly rushed to the east and south. "Brother, wait a minute," Zheng Suihong stopped Song Viang, got into the gravel and said, "Thank you for me, I'll change my pants." "Okay, take your time, let's not worry." Song Viang sighed. After a few minutes, Zheng Suihong finally changed his pants. The two of them did not dare to turn on the flashlights, and moved forward in the faint moonlight, 1 foot high and the other low, and they almost tripped over weeds and vines several times. "Someone! I don't know how long he has been walking," Zheng Suihong suddenly warned, and rushed into the grass by the roadside. "His posture is as agile as Sammo Hung." Song Viang was also taken aback. He thought it was a border check post, and scrambled to hide in a pile of grass and rocks. Got close, Song Viang finally saw the situation clearly. but a bicycle team came quietly. There are about 7 or 8 vehicles, all towing loaded bicycles, carrying large and small packages of goods towards the border defense line. Song Viang got up with a smile, and said to Chief Fatty, "It's okay, it's smuggled. It's okay, it's okay, it scared me to death." Zheng Suihong jumped very cautiously. The barbed wire border defense line of the special zone has spent hundreds of millions of dollars to build. Due to the implementation of a series of tax reduction and exemption policies in Shenzhen City, the price of imported goods is much lower than that of the mainland, and taxes and fees are required to make up for the price difference when exiting customs. The only function of the bicycle transport team just now is to evade taxes, which is strictly a smuggling act. Walked forward for dozens of minutes, Zheng Suihong panted with exhaustion, sat down on the ground, and threw a cigarette to Song Viang and said, "Hey, let's take a rest." Song Viang put the cigarette on, took out 2 bottles of canned fruit and said, "I have not eaten 2 meals, fill up my stomach." Zheng Suihong took out a knife to pry open the can, raised his neck to drink and chewed hard, and lay on the ground with emotion. "Damn, we were still heroes fighting gangsters last night, and in a blink of an eye we became frightened stowaways. Regret it?" Song Viang smiled. "Regret?" Zheng Suihong sat up. "My old Zheng doesn't know what regret is. If I didn't earn hundreds of thousands, I really won't go back." Song Viang asked, "What business do you plan to do in the special zone?" "I haven't figured it out yet." "Find a place to live first." Zheng Suihong stood up with his hips, his tone became impassioned. "Brother, don't be afraid of your jokes, brother, I came to the special zone to make a lot of money. I have a 5-year plan. First, earn 100,000 a year, and 1 million in the second year. In the 5th year, I will be a billionaire with a net worth of hundreds of millions. I think you are also a smart and capable person. How about it? Do you want to have a big fight with my brother? This is also called a plan? Daydream is more appropriate. Lao Tzu also plans to become the world's richest man in 10 years. Song Viang was too lazy to complain, and couldn't help but say, "Don't be a rich man, first think about how to make money, the prices in the special zone are not low." Zheng Suihong didn't worry, and said in a spirited spirit, "Seeing one step and one step, a living person can still be suffocated to urinate? I'm definitely not going to work. Continue to be the deputy director in my hometown. Believe me, my brother, the Tsar is full of money, just waiting for us to pick it up. After giving up this 200 caddies of meat, I have to do something big." "Brother arrogant." Song Viang gave a thumbs up. Many years later, when people talk about this era, some people say it is dark, while others say it is romantic. Passionate, passionate, wild. It is reflected in the tens of thousands of Zheng Suihong. Middle-aged people, working stably, but abandoning their family and business with ambitions and ideals, rushing into the sea. They didn't even have a specific plan. They only knew that the special zone was full of gold, so they pounced like bloodthirsty and hungry wolves to create an infinitely bright future. In this kind of irrational savage madness, countless people hit their heads and broke blood, and countless grasses transformed into dragons. Song Viang left in no hurry. Anyway, it's hard to find a place to live in the dark. He lay on the ground looking up at the stars, and asked casually, "Brother has a story." "What story? A rough one?" Zheng Suihong said, pinching his cigarette butt. Song Viang said, "You were drunk in the dining car, and you said you almost participated in the Olympics." Zheng Suihong sighed and sighed, "There is a chance. I used to practice weightlifting, and my best result was a silver medal in the national games. I was recommended by the provincial team to participate in the selection of the Olympic national team. As a result, his mother's bad luck caused her waist to be injured at a critical time. I was lying in bed and watched the 1984 Olympics. But, there is nothing to regret. I was too old at the time, and I tried my best to be unable to choose. Sister-in-law supports you in coming to the special zone? Song Viang asked. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. Speaking of his wife, Zheng Suihong returned to reality in an instant, and said with a wry smile, support a fart. Women, with long hair and short knowledge, don't know how wonderful the outside world is. My sister-in-law is worried about you too. Song Viang said. Stop talking about that, Zheng Suihong quickly turned to the subject, do you know who my idol is? Song Viang choked up and said, who? Mao Qizhong, who can change the plane. Zheng Suihong said. Song Viang smiled and said, I knew it was him. Much of the passionate middle-aged man like Zheng Suihong, who is not learning and skillful, admires Mao Qizhong. They admire the wild way, and they feel that only this is the real business genius. As for the vast number of young students, they regard Shi Yuzhu as a god, dreaming that one day they can make a fortune through knowledge and talent. Zheng Suihong seems to be suffocated. He comes from a small remote county, closed and old-fashioned. People there regard him as a lunatic fool and throw away the iron rice bowl to do business. He was very depressed and couldn't find anyone who could speak. Now he caught Song Viang and talked bitter. Lithe two have fought side by side and are worthy of trust. I talked about it until the middle of the night, and I had enough rest before moving on. I am confused and don't know how long I walked, passing through several villages on the way, and finally came to a modern neighborhood. The city that never sleeps is blowing, and it's dark everywhere, and even neon lights are rare on the street. It may be that the lights are turned off in the middle of the night, and only the scattered buildings can see the light. The two were too lazy to find a hotel, and they sat on the side of the road and waited for dawn, but it was cheaper for the mosquitoes in the special zone. The moon is setting and the sun is rising. Through the faint morning light, Song Viang finally sees clearly the words on the building in the distance: electronic building. How did Nima come to Huaqiangbei? Ideals are bright, but reality is cold. After coming to Shenzhen City, Song Viang and Zheng Suihong's first impression was that the prices in the special zone are too expensive. They dare not rent a house in the city because they can't afford it. It was only 1993, and the highest housing price in Shenzhen City had broken through 10,000 yuan, which was totally unreasonable. The rent also increased wildly, and they had to go to the suburbs to find housing for the people. Everything originated from the great man's southern tour last year, and gold nuggets from all over the country flocked to the deep city. As a result, the prices here have been messed up, rising by 10% within a year, and housing prices have soared like a rocket. It will take 2 or 3 years before they begin to cool down. In the next few days, Song Viang and Zheng Suihong were both wandering on the street. In their words, this was looking for business opportunities. Shenzhen Stock Exchange is naturally a place to be investigated. Zheng Suihong entered the city like a bun. He looked at everything strangely, and said with confidence, "This is the stock market. I heard that as long as you can buy stocks, you can make money. Someone who can't buy stocks will set fire to trouble. That was last year." Song Viang said. Looking at the green on the electronic screen, Zheng Suihong said, without a teacher, "The red light stops, the green light is okay, the market is very good, do you think we should buy that stock? Let's go, there is nothing to see, the bull market has passed, we have encountered a big bear market." Song Viang said. Zheng Suihong said with joy, "Good bears, but cows can only eat grass. There are too many slots," and Song Viang didn't know where to start. He simply explained, "A bear market means buying everything falls. Do you see those greens? It's all money-losing goods. No way." Zheng Suihong was a little dazed. As a bureaucrat born as a weightlifter, Zheng Suihong only has an elementary school diploma. His back injury was very serious, almost paralyzed, and he could not walk around after several years of recuperation. After such a delay, Zheng Suihong could only go back to his hometown to be a physical education teacher. With the help of his former teammates, he entered the county sports bureau and became deputy director step by step. Narrow vision, no culture, all knowledge of the special zone comes from news reports and my own fantasy, even the border defense pass required to enter the deep city is not clear. From all angles, our director Zheng is indeed a fool. There are countless fools like in the deep city. Some people quickly adapt and evolve, and some people are bruised and left alone. Natural selection, survival of the fittest. Zheng Suihong belongs to the former. He quickly faced reality and adjusted his mentality. He didn't mention a 5-year plan. He just wanted to start with some profitable small businesses. On the 5th day of coming to the deep city, in the suburban houses, Zheng Suihong suddenly rushed into the shared house and said to Song Viang, "Brother, how about we go for wholesale and reselling?" "What are you reselling?" Song Viang didn't look up, and quickly wrote English manuscripts on the table. Zheng Suihong explained, "That's the case. Let's buy bicycles first, then go to Zhongying Street to wholesale Hong Kong goods, and then drove through the border guards through the barbed wire." I asked, "As long as the goods are transferred to Huazhu, 20% to 30% will be transferred. Profit?" "No." Song Viang put down the ballpoint pen in his hand, stared at Zheng Suihong for a while, and said with a strange expression, "Brother, you're chief, you're party member, why are you thinking about smuggling? How brave and brilliant we are on the train, you can't do anything illegal." Zheng Suihong laughed and said, "It's just a small mess, which is smuggling. Besides, even if we don't do it, there are others who do this business. Who makes money? We also contribute to the mainland economy." "No, no." Song Viang shook his head repeatedly. "You are too courageous." Zheng Suihong mocked. Song Viang said, "Smuggling is too risky, and it may steal other people's business. Then someone will report it quietly, and you can't get the money on the spot." Zheng Suihong frowned and said, "That's right, this is a problem." Song Viang grinned suddenly and said, "Smuggling is too untechnical. Why don't we engage in fraud? It's safe and easy." "Hey!" Zheng Suihong thought he had heard it wrong. Song Viang's startup capital is limited, and it has been spent all the way. Now there are only more than 3,600 left. It is impossible to make quick money legally. In the past few days, Song Viang has been investigating projects, and he is also investigating Zheng Suihong. He himself is too young and has no hair on his lips, which makes it difficult to gain the trust of the scammers, and the corrupt image of Director Zheng is the best candidate for the scam accomplices. The only doubt is that Zheng Suihong is too righteous and refuses to do things that violate the law and discipline. It's all right now, Zheng Suihong offered to engage in smuggling, so it's no problem to engage in fraud or something. It's not good to deceive people, but smuggling is safer, at least I don't have the burden in my heart. Zheng Suihong was embarrassed. Song Viang smiled and said, "Don't worry, although it's a fraud, we don't harm anyone. Even if the other party knows he has been deceived, he is willing to send the money to us happily. This is called Zhou Yu's fight against Huang Gai. One is willing to endure." Zheng Suihong said angrily, "Do you amused me as a 3-year-old child? My plan is like this." Song Viang murmured in Zheng Suihong's ear. Zheng Suihong was confused when he listened, and said suspiciously, "That's okay? Those people are not fools." Song Viang said, "Fools don't get the bait. Who is rare to cheat? If you want to cheat, you cheat smart people." "Well, I can't say cheating, it's too ugly. I'm helping them grow up happily. I still feel unreliable." Zheng Suihong shook his head. Song Viang said, "Don't worry, you reading www.yuyuganshu.com anyway, the cost of fraud is not high, even if you don't make money, we don't have much loss." Zheng Suihong thought for a while, and finally let go, then, "Try it." Song Viang immediately took a few manuscripts and smiled, I have written all the materials and are now translating them into English. Then I will take out the bilingual version in Chinese and English, and I will be internationalized at a glance, and I promise to bluff those people away." Zheng Suihong glanced at the unfinished English manuscript on the table, and said admiringly, "Brother, you are great, but you still understand English, like a big business person." "In the next few days, we will act separately," Song Viang said. "You go to the street to buy drinks, pay attention to the address, and select those manufacturers in Guangdong province and its surrounding areas. Don't choose big brands, only those second and third tier brands. I'll find someone to make fake materials, and then rent an office, then I can just let it go." "No problem." Zheng Suihong also geared up. Song Viang asked, "How are your acting skills?" Zheng Suihong said, "I have never acted in a play." Song Viang said, "Then you have to practice and start learning tonight." "No, from now on, I will call you Director Zheng. You are the director of the Shenzhen office of the South China branch of the China Private Enterprise Development Promotion Association." "Well, this is Director Zheng," Zheng Suihong said, shaking her head suddenly, her face trembling with fat. "No, you can't use your real name as a liar." Song Viang thought for a while and said, "Well, you should be Lu Huiteng." "This name is good." Zheng Suihong was very satisfied, and suggested, "Brother, you should also use a pseudonym." Song Viang said with a serious expression, "If you can change your surname or sit down without changing your name, Ma Qiangdong, even if I am a liar, I have to cheat with my real name." Zheng Suihong thumbs up, "Nice. Stop, don't run. Run again and break your leg. Over there, stop him." Early in the morning, Song Viang ran into a group of defense team members when he went out, and through a few youths who looked like migrant workers. Zheng Suihong had a lingering heart, and muttered, "Damn, just like bandits. You have to get a fake temporary residence permit, or something will go wrong sooner or later." Song Viang worried. These defense team members all look at their clothes and catch people. Seeing who is dressed in shabby clothes, they must go up and interrogate them. If they can't get a temporary residence permit, they will end up miserably. The two crossed the streets side by side, and they didn't go too far before they met a zone defender. The zone defender seemed to have chased the man and lost him, looking around to observe. Seeing Song Viang and Zheng Suihong, this guy didn't go empty, so he hurried over to prepare for interrogation. Song Viang didn't panic, and smiled and said to Zheng Suihong, "Director Lu, it's up to you." Zheng Suihong was also calm, and before the other party could speak, he took the initiative to say hello, morning. The zone defender was stunned, and nodded subconsciously, morning. Zheng Suihong took out a box of zonghua that was specially used to support the scene, and passed a cigarette and said, "No one was caught." The zone defender took the cigarette and put it on his mouth, cursing, "It's all rats, really good at it." Zheng Suihong patted the joint defenseman on the shoulder and said in an official tone, "Comrades have worked hard early in the morning. There are more and more migrants in the special zone, and public security is very poor. It is up to your joint defense team to maintain it. Isn't it?" The defense officer was quite helpful, and asked casually, "Do you live near here?" "It's not far to live, Shangsha village." Zheng Suihong began to complain, "Shenzhen's house is really hard to find. You can't rent it if you have money in the city. Thinking of my chief bureau, I can only do business with more than 100,000. I live in a rural area in the special zone. I don't dare to tell my friends when I go back, it's too shameful. Comrade, do you think this is true?" Song Viang and Zheng Suihong were originally in suits and leather shoes, unlike the poor ghosts who are reluctant to spend money on temporary residence permits. When Director Zheng spoke, he was full of aura. The joint defense officer was not half skeptical, and he immediately agreed, "This is the truth. Now everything in the special economic zone is in short supply, the houses in the city have long been rented out. Don't say you are a director. The county magistrate still lives in the countryside when he comes, the special zone is different from outside the customs. Zheng Suihong's tone was dull and frustrated. How about calling it a special zone? Even you, the zone defense team, are smart and capable. When you really start a war, you can kill the enemy and serve the country directly by pulling the front line. You deserve to be a leader, and you have to speak well. The zone defender was about to float. At this moment, a few more defensemen gasped over and asked, "Injo, these two have a problem. How many times have you said that? Don't call me Nju." The defense officer pointed to Zheng Suihong and introduced, "This is the director from outside the pass. He lives in Shangsha village. The person is pretty good. You can take care of it in the future." Zheng Suihong immediately smoked and said, "Comrades, you have worked hard. My name is Lu Huiteng. This is my nephew Ma Qiangdong." Song Viang, who watched the show for a long time, quickly dressed up and smiled, "Hello, brothers, you were really awesome just now." These defense team members picked up the cigarettes, and when they saw that it was Zhang Hua, they immediately got acquainted with each other. The leader said, "I know the defense team in Shangsha village. If anything happens in the future, I will report Miniu Jiangguo's name." "Happy brother." Zheng Suihong put away the cigarette case, chatted a few more words, smiled and said, "I'm going to talk about a business, let's talk again next time, I will invite everyone to drink at that time." The defense team members sent off warmly, "Director Lu is going well, I wish you a fortune." "Haha, everyone is getting rich." Zheng Suihong waved his hand and strode forward with his stomach straight. Song Viang followed, thumbs up, and murmured in praise, "Director Lu is awesome. General, General. I have received the mayor, and I'm afraid of these little wanderers." Zheng Suihong was very energetic. After seeing the basic operations of the partners, Song Viang became more confident in the future of fraud, and said with a smile, "Then let's split up and meet again at night." Zheng Suihong urged, "Be careful, don't be fooled by those who issue false certificates. Want to lie to me? They have to practice for another 20 years. Let's go, Director Lu." Song Viang waved away. In the middle of the morning, Song Viang walked to a seal carving booth and squatted down and asked, "Boss, do you carve your official seal here? The official seal needs more money." The stall owner said. "How much is one?" Song Viang said. 500 yuan. The stall owner said. Song Viang said happily, "Are you bullying a foreigner? Prices are high in the special economic zone." The stall owner continued to carve the seal without raising his head. "How about 10 yuan? Song Viang said. The stall leader said, "You can engrave 3 for 10 yuan, but it's a private seal. 50 yuan, I will engrave 2 official seals." Song Viang bargained. "What to engrave?" the stall owner asked. Song Viang took out a piece of paper, and saw 2 official seals painted on it, with the words CP Technology Co., Limited. and South China Branch of China Private Enterprise Development Promotion Association inside. The stall owner shook his head again and again, "There are too many words, I need to add more money. 60 yuan, I will find someone else if I don't do it." Song Viang said. The stall owner said, "Put the paper down, pay a deposit of 10 yuan, and come back tomorrow to pick it up." Song Viang said, "You can't run away with money, right?" The stall owner laughed angrily, "My stall, every month, there are a lot of filial piety and joint defense. Just to hack you 10 yuan, I threw down the stall and ran away? Are you stupid or am I stupid? If you don't believe me, I will write you a letter." Receipt? Song Viang, who got the receipt, didn't leave. He picked up the private seal sample from the stall and asked casually, "Boss, do you know the certificate holder? I know you are not a good thing, the stall owner gave Song Viang a look, then looked around vigilantly, and whispered, "I want to charge an agency fee." "Yes, but you have to get the certificate before you give it," Song Viang said. "Now it's the turn of the stall owner to worry, what should I do if you ran away?" Song Viang said, "I will not only apply for the certificate, but also make some other things, at least $1,000. If the people you introduce are reliable and the things you make are beautiful, I will not only pay the intermediary fee, but also give you $200. The big red envelope. Just say whether you want it or not. I'm doing a big business, and it's not bad for your money." The stall owner thought carefully for a moment, and thought that the business could be done, even if Song Viang ran away without paying the money, he would not lose much. Quickly wrote a note, and Song Viang said in his hand, "Take it, and look for a guy named De Tobin according to the address." Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com said it was introduced by me, Hu Jinfa. "Thank you, I will give you a big red envelope." Song Viang smiled and put the note away. Actually, there are all kinds of information for visa application on the street, but Song Viang is afraid of being deceived. It would be no fun if he encounters a fairy jumping. The address on the note is a certain village, which will be an urban village in the SAR after it is put aside, but now it can only belong to the suburbs. Song Viang carried his bag and walked slowly. He only had 100 yuan on his body, and the remaining money had been deposited in the bank. Even those who applied for the certificate would not lose much. It was noon when I entered the village, and every family was eating. Song Viang passed by a house and saw a woman squatting at the door burying her head to eat. She immediately stepped forward and asked the way, "Eldest sister, where does De Tobin live?" The woman heard Song Viang's voice, immediately raised her head, and said with joy, "Brother Ma. Are you the Chen Tao on the train?" Song Viang was a little confused. It's me." The girl nodded repeatedly. Suddenly, a middle-aged woman walked out of the room and said to Chen Tao, "Sister, are you full, or I will serve you another bowl." The girl held the bowl and said gratefully, "I'm full, thank you, sister-in-law." Song Viang scratched his head, "Is this girl here to beg?" Actually, there is a leader, thanks to the leader of Love and Love in the Wind Yufan for the reward, thanks to the rudder leader of Lu XX for the reward, thanks to Moment of Dust, Swan Yuan Yu, 50 strings sound. I won't make a list when I wait for my classmates' advice. It might be a little difficult to add something more. To be honest, Lao Wang kept less than 20,000 words in a month and a half. The manuscript was revised and revised repeatedly, and it changed 4 at the beginning, and it continued to be revised when it was uploaded. Now that the manuscripts are exhausted, this chapter is currently coded.